Changing Economic World Revision Part 2. We know already that primary products, raw materials, don't bring in much money for poorer countries. So if countries can turn those products into manufactured or processed goods, they can sell them for much more money. And many newly emerging economies have lifted themselves out of poverty by investing in industry. This can be an internal investment by the LIC, where the country's own government and companies develop projects. An example of this is China in the 1980s, where they set up special economic zones to attract new businesses, and they became the workshop of the world. More often than not, however, poorer countries just can't do this. They haven't got the money, so they need to attract large foreign firms called transnational corporations, or TNCs, to set up in the country. This is called foreign direct investment, FDI. An example of this is Nike, that makes shoes in lower income countries where the cost of labour is cheaper and sells the shoes in higher income countries. It can be a win-win situation for both the poorer country and the TNC. Transnational corporations provide jobs, and people spend their salary locally, so local businesses grow, and this creates more jobs. The country earns money by exporting products, and they can use this money to develop their own industries, and often in time these industries start to invest abroad themselves. For example, Tata Group, an Indian company, has invested massively in the struggling UK steel industry. Money created from new industry can also be used to improve the infrastructure, transport, energy, and also health and education. New skills are learnt, which attracts new industries. And this upward spiral is called the positive multiplier effect. However, there are problems with TNCs. If conditions change, they will just close down and move elsewhere. Local workers are often paid badly, and working conditions can be poor. Much of the profit goes abroad to the foreign company instead of staying in the country, and these companies often avoid paying tax. Also, management jobs are often reserved for foreigners, which holds back the development of vital skills that could be used to develop the LIC's own industries. You'll remember that one of the causes of uneven development is the fact that trade isn't fair. Richer countries benefit more from world trade than poorer countries do, and unless countries are part of trading blocs, import tariffs and quotas mean the rich countries control how much produce poorer countries can sell them. While poorer countries buy expensive manufactured goods from rich countries, richer countries usually buy cheap agricultural products from poorer countries and drive prices down so that farmers hardly see any profit. And the price of crops fluctuates, so farmers are not guaranteed an income. The Fair Trade Foundation works to make sure farmers in LICs get a fair price for their products. Companies who want to sell products labelled as fair trade have to pay producers a fair price and guarantee the price, even if the global price of a crop falls, so the farmers still receive their regular income, protecting their quality of life. Companies also pay a social premium, money that is given to the farming community to help develop the area where the goods come from, for example, building schools or health centres. It's also good for the environment, as farmers must agree to farm in an environmentally friendly way. Between 1960 and 1980, some HICs loaned LICs huge amounts of money to develop their countries, often without too many questions being asked, and LICs were helped to develop infrastructure for industry like dams and were able to pay the loan back. However, in some cases, lending led to serious problems. Sometimes money that was lent was stolen through corruption, and sometimes countries owed so much interest that all the wealth they were making was just going to HICs to repay the loans instead of improving the quality of life for its people. In 2005, a group of the world's richest countries agreed to cancel the debts of many lower income countries, but only if they could 1. Demonstrate they could manage their own finances, 2. Show there was no corruption in their government, 3. Agree to spend the saved money on education, healthcare and reducing poverty. This meant that they could improve the lives of their people. Another way the development gap can be reduced is through aid. And aid is when a country or a non-governmental organisation, an NGO like Oxfam, donates resources to another country to help it develop or improve its lives. So you have the donor giving the money and the recipient receiving it. Aid can take many forms. It can be given directly from one country to another. This is called bilateral aid, two-sided aid. Or donor countries can pool their donations together and give collectively through an organisation like the World Bank. This is called multilateral aid, many sides. Donations which are collected from the general public, like via Oxfam or Save the Children, and not from a government, is called voluntary aid. Aid can be given without conditions, or the donor country might tie their donations to certain conditions, like the recipient country must spend the money buying from the donor country. Aid can be one-off short-term donations, for example, help providing emergency housing after an earthquake, or it can aim to provide more long-term help, like installing a solar panel to provide lighting. Aid projects can be large-scale, for example, building a whole dam, or really small scale, like building a well in a village. So it can be giving of money, or it can be giving of emergency supplies, like tents and medicines or water. It can be giving food or seeds, like rice or wheat, or it could be providing people with special skills to help out in a particular situation, like doctors and engineers. Some of the most effective aid is from NGOs, charities, meeting the needs of local communities. Charities like Nets for Life, which is trying to prevent malaria by providing nets so people aren't bitten by malaria carrying mosquitoes. And Oxfam's Send a Goat project encourages people to buy a goat for a poorer family. The family can not only get milk and cheese from the goat to make their diet better or to sell, they can sell or give away one of the goat's kids to help another family in the community. Many projects use intermediate technology to reduce the development gap, like this Play Pump International project in South Africa. This charity uses a playground roundabout to draw water from deep underground. Intermediate technology is really effective because it involves and therefore empowers the local community to meet their own needs. It's low cost and the technology is simple so that it can be built and maintained by locals. Projects are usually small scale, but it makes a major impact on the local community, and they're often associated with agriculture, water, or health. So the question really is, does aid help development? Well, there's no doubt that emergency aid in times of disaster will save lives, and help after the disaster will help rebuild livelihoods. And there's no doubt that human welfare can be drastically improved through the provision of medical training, medicines, equipment, water and sanitation projects. These will make a huge impact. Also, if countries can be helped to access and develop and sell their natural resources through power supplies, transport infrastructure, mining equipment, this is going to really help the country industrialise, and encouraging industrial development is going to create jobs and wealth. So aid also may not be a good thing because sometimes it doesn't reach the people who need it, especially aid that's given government to government, and corrupt governments will siphon off the money for their own political gain rather than put it to where it's supposed to be given. Aid could also increase the dependency of lower income countries on donor countries and stop them standing on their own 2 feet and developing their own industries. So some aid is not a gift, but it's a loan, and poor countries may struggle to repay this. It may be the condition of the investment in tied aid that the projects are run by foreign companies, or that a proportion of the resources or profits will be sent abroad to the donor country. And this isn't going to help the LIC. Some development projects may actually lead to food and water costing more, and you've seen this in the Ethiopian Highlands Water Project. If aid is given as food, this aid can actually flood the market and will actually suppress the prices that local farmers can get for their products, and that's not going to be helpful to them. Microfinance is a way for poor people who couldn't normally get loans to develop a money-making enterprise by borrowing a small amount of money. It might be lent by a charity like World Vision, but unlike straight aid, the money is repaid and ploughed back to the community for other people to borrow. So money might be lent for better seeds or a mobile phone that could be rented out. In the Kibera slum of Kenya, the Turning Point Trust offers microloans to parents to start businesses, and often the money is lent to women, and this raises their status. Tourism can be a really important way for LICs to earn that injection of money that starts a positive multiplier effect going, and with it, economic and social development. We're going to use Kenya as our example. Kenya sits on the equator in East Africa, bordered by the Indian Ocean, Somalia, Ethiopia, South Sudan, Uganda and Tanzania. It's Lion King country, with the savanna grasslands of the Great Rift Valley running through it, and it's long been a popular tourist destination. Its GNI is $4,244 per person, making it a middle-income country. Traditionally, it gets its money from farming, tea, coffee, and more recently, it's a major supplier of cut flowers, and such as roses and vegetables to Europe. Tourism was developed to diversify the economy so it didn't have to rely on the fluctuations in price of crops. So you can see on this map that the capital of Kenya is Nairobi, and it's got a major port called Mombasa on the coast. There's lots to attract visitors here. It has several national parks, such as the Masai Mara Nature Reserve, where tourists can go on safari and view the lions, elephants, giraffes, etc., and find out about the Masai culture, or the Lake Nakuru National Park, where you can go and see the pink flamingos. On the coast, there are beautiful sandy beaches around Mombasa that attract tourists, and Mount Kenya is a popular trekking route. It's also a venue for business conferences, as the Kenyatta International Conference Centre in Nairobi is the largest conference centre in East Africa. Tourism has steadily increased over the last 30 years, with nearly 1.4 million visitors in 2017. It's a super part of today's economy. It creates directly 250,000 jobs. That's 11% of employment wages. And many more jobs are created indirectly, for example, through farms supplying hotels with food. So 11.6% of Kenya's jobs rely on tourism. It creates 12% of the GDP, that's the wealth produced in the country. And it brings $5.3 billion into Kenya's economy. So 7.5% of Kenya's capital investment, that's money coming in to develop industry and projects, comes from tourism. In 2014, tourists spent the equivalent of 17% of Kenya's exports. In other words, it's an important way to generate both jobs and money. So how has tourism helped Kenya develop? Well, firstly, local people are employed and they learn new skills in tourism services and construction. For example, tourists pay Maasai warriors for cultural shows, and then visitors get an insight into local customs and traditions. Visitors also get an insight into the importance of conservation as they see the wildlife and what threatens it. And tourism offers a more sustainable economic activity than hunting and poaching. So elephants and rhinos, for example, have been saved from extinction. So the money that people earn is used to improve their standard of living and buy things, and that creates more jobs, more businesses. And the government takes the money from tourism to improve local education, health and other services. And generally the infrastructure improves as facilities like roads and buses, taxis, airports are provided for the tourists. But there are some downsides of tourism. Firstly, foreign companies sometimes bring foreign workers to do the skilled jobs, so local people only get to do the low-skilled, poorly paid work. Also, as national parks are being preserved for wildlife, so the tourists can see the animals, many Maasai people who are traditionally nomadic have lost their right to graze their cows and have been forced out of national parks, losing their land and losing their traditional lifestyles. Environmentally, tourism can disrupt the habitats. For example, on the coast in Mombasa, tourists destroy the coral reefs by stepping on it. And often the profits don't stay in the country, they go out to the foreign companies and to the tour operators and hotel chains. Also, projects for local communities might be sidelined in favour of projects that help tourist areas. For example, a nice road for the between the airport and the hotel, but not to the local town.